Good evening, George Will here. Breaking news tonight as the silence surrounding Meghan Markle's pre-royal conduct has been shattered by an explosive first-hand account from the very person who orchestrated one of the most scrutinized weddings of the decade. Celebrity wedding planner Jessica Mulroney, who for 6 years has maintained strict public silence about her work on Meghan's May 2018 royal wedding, has now come forward with allegations that fundamentally challenge the carefully constructed public image of the Duchess of Sussex. In a detailed statement provided exclusively to British media outlets, Mulroney claims she was subjected to intimidation tactics, legal threats, and what she describes as psychological manipulation designed to ensure her permanent silence about what she witnessed during the wedding planning process. The question before us tonight is not whether these allegations are sensational, they undeniably are, but whether they are credible, corroborated, and consistent with other emerging patterns of behavior. The credibility of the source demands immediate examination. Jessica Mulroney is not a tabloid journalist seeking headlines. She is not a disgruntled former acquaintance with an axe to grind. She is one of Canada's most prominent wedding and event planners, with a client list that includes corporate executives, entertainment figures, and political families. Her company Shoebox Project and her previous role as a stylist for Canadian television have established her as a serious professional with a reputation to protect. Her friendship with Meghan predates royal involvement, extending back to Meghan's years filming Suits in Toronto. The two women were photographed together numerous times between 2016 and 2018, attending events, sharing vacations, and publicly celebrating their connection. Mulroney's three children served as page boys and flower girl at the royal wedding. This was not a casual professional relationship. This was a friendship that Meghan trusted with one of the most important events of her life. The allegations themselves are specific and serious. According to Mulroney's statement released through her attorney at 9:32 GMT this morning, Meghan called her directly on June 7, 2018, exactly 19 days after the royal wedding. The phone call, which Mulroney states lasted 41 minutes, allegedly began with Meghan expressing concern about potential media inquiries Mulroney might receive. This concern, according to Mulroney, rapidly escalated into what she characterizes as threats. Meghan allegedly stated, and I quote from Mulroney's sworn statement, "If you speak to anyone, if you say anything about the wedding, about me, about the planning, I will make sure you never work in this industry again. I have lawyers who will destroy you. You have children. Think about them." The specificity of this alleged threat is important. It references Mulroney's children by name according to the full statement, suggesting intimate knowledge deployed as leverage. It invokes legal action indicating awareness of the power differential between a newly royal figure and a private citizen. It threatens professional destruction, demonstrating understanding of where Mulroney is most vulnerable. If accurate, this is not a friend expressing reasonable concern about privacy. This is calculated intimidation deployed by someone who understands how to wield power and fear. Mulroney's statement continues with additional allegations of follow-up enforcement. She claims she received a cease and desist letter from Meghan's London-based attorney Harbottle and Lewis on June 22, 2018. We have independently confirmed that Harbottle and Lewis did represent Meghan Markle during this period, as they were the firm handling her legal action against her father Thomas Markle regarding the leaked letter. The cease and desist letter, according to Mulroney, demanded she sign a non-disclosure agreement retroactively covering her entire friendship with Meghan, not merely the professional services rendered for the wedding. The NDA, Mulroney alleges, included a liquidated damages clause of $5 million for any breach, defined so broadly as to encompass even confirming she knew Meghan personally. Before we proceed further with these explosive allegations, if you want to understand the full scope of what happens when palace image management collides with individual rights, subscribe to this channel and activate notifications. What we are uncovering has implications far beyond one wedding or one planner. This is about power, control, and the lengths to which public figures will go to manage their narratives. The legal framework surrounding NDAs provides crucial context. Non-disclosure agreements are standard in celebrity event planning, typically protecting guest lists, vendor costs, design details, and personal preferences from public disclosure. However, NDAs cannot lawfully prohibit truthful testimony in legal proceedings, cannot prevent reporting of illegal activity, and cannot be enforced if procured through duress or coercion. If Mulroney's account is accurate, that she was threatened before being presented with an NDA, that the NDA was demanded after services were rendered rather than negotiated beforehand, and that the penalty clause was set at a level designed to bankrupt her rather than compensate for actual damages. The enforceability of such an agreement is highly questionable under both Canadian and British contract law. Mulroney claims she signed the NDA under protest on July 3, 2018, after consulting with her own attorney, who advised that fighting it would cost more than compliance and that Meghan's resources as a royal family member made litigation unwinnable. This calculation, sign under duress or face financial ruin defending yourself, is precisely how powerful individuals silence less powerful ones. It is the same dynamic seen in employment disputes, sexual harassment cases, and whistleblower situations. The law may provide theoretical protections, but the practical reality of unlimited legal budgets versus personal financial constraints often dictates capitulation. For 6 years, Mulroney honored that NDA despite significant professional and personal costs. Her friendship with Meghan publicly ended in June 2020 following a social media dispute with Black lifestyle blogger Sasha Exeter, who accused Mulroney of threatening her career after Exeter posted about white privilege. Meghan, who had built her public brand partly on racial justice advocacy, reportedly cut all contact with Mulroney without public comment. Mulroney lost her position as a contributor to Good Morning America and several corporate partnerships. Her reputation suffered enormous damage, yet she remained silent about her years working with Meghan, honoring the NDA even as her former friend offered no support during her public pillorying. The timing of Mulroney's decision to speak now in May 2025 is strategically significant. 6 years have elapsed since the alleged threats. Meghan's own legal and public relations circumstances have shifted dramatically. The protective shield of royal affiliation no longer applies with the same force. Public sentiment has turned more skeptical of the Sussexes' narratives following contradictions exposed in Harry's memoir and interviews. Most importantly, Mulroney appears to have secured legal opinions suggesting the NDA is unenforceable given the circumstances of its execution, and that her statement constitutes protected speech under Canadian and American free expression principles. The corroborating evidence strengthens Mulroney's position. Text messages between Mulroney and her husband Ben Mulroney in June 2018, which she has provided to journalists, reference feeling threatened and pressured. An email from her attorney to Harbottle and Lewis dated June 28, 2018 states Mulroney is willing to sign a standard industry NDA but objects to the scope and penalty provisions of the proposed agreement. A calendar entry from July 3 shows an appointment titled Sign M Paperwork Reluctantly. These contemporaneous documents, created at the time events allegedly occurred, carry significant evidentiary weight. The pattern evidence is equally compelling. Mulroney's allegations of intimidation and threatened legal action are consistent with other reports of Meghan's behavior towards staff and associates. Allegations from Kensington Palace staff in 2018 included claims of verbal abuse and bullying serious enough to prompt an internal investigation. Communications staff reportedly departed their positions at unusually high rates during Meghan's brief time as a working royal. Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister, was sued for defamation by Meghan after making public statements, a lawsuit that demonstrates Meghan's willingness to deploy legal resources against critics. Thomas Markle, her father, was threatened with legal action if he continued speaking to media. These separate incidents, from different sources and different contexts, form a pattern of using legal threats to control narratives and silence voices. The wedding itself provides important context. The royal wedding of May 19, 2018 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, was watched by an estimated 1.9 billion people globally. The event was meticulously stage-managed to project specific imagery, modern, diverse, American, informal, yet respectful of tradition. Every element, from the gospel choir to the choice of flowers, conveyed carefully chosen messages. The level of control required to execute this vision under intense global scrutiny would have necessitated extremely tight management of all participants and vendors. Mulroney, as the person coordinating many of these elements, would have possessed knowledge of countless decisions, compromises, conflicts, and behind-the-scenes realities that might contradict the public presentation. What might Mulroney know that would warrant such aggressive silencing? Industry sources, speaking not for attribution, suggest several possibilities. There were reportedly significant tensions between Meghan and royal household staff over wedding plans, with Meghan's preferences frequently contradicting protocol and tradition. The famous disagreement over whether Princess Charlotte and the other flower girls should wear tights is well documented, but sources suggest this was merely one of dozens of similar conflicts. The cost of the wedding, officially stated as funded by the royal family, allegedly included expenses that Meghan attempted to charge to Kensington Palace budget lines inappropriately. The guest list was reportedly contentious, with Meghan inviting numerous celebrities she barely knew while excluding family members and Harry's friends. Mulroney would have witnessed Meghan's behavior under pressure, how she treated vendors, how she spoke to staff, how she responded to obstacles. She would know which elements of the wedding Meghan claimed as her choices but were actually dictated by protocol or suggested by palace staff. She would know what Meghan said privately about the royal family, about Harry's relatives, about British culture and traditions. She would have seen the person behind the carefully managed public image. This knowledge, in the hands of someone no longer bound by friendship or legal constraint, represents a significant threat to Meghan's carefully constructed narrative of victimhood and grace under pressure. The legal consequences of Mulroney's statement could be substantial. If Meghan disputes these allegations, she faces a difficult choice. Suing Mulroney for defamation would require proving the statements are false and damaging, which would necessitate discovery, depositions, and potentially trial testimony that could expose far more than the lawsuit aims to protect. Ignoring the allegations allows them to stand unchallenged, but avoids the risk of litigation revealing additional damaging information. Attempting to enforce the NDA through breach of contract litigation faces the problems previously discussed regarding its questionable enforceability. Each option carries significant downsides. For Mulroney, she faces potential financial liability if Meghan chooses to pursue NDA enforcement, potential reputation damage from Meghan's defenders who will portray her as a disloyal opportunist, and potential professional consequences in an industry that values discretion. However, she also gains freedom from years of enforced silence, the opportunity to defend her own reputation by providing context about her relationship with Meghan, and the satisfaction of accountability for someone she believes wronged her. The timeline reconstruction illuminates the deteriorating relationship. May 19, 2018, Mulroney serves as wedding planner for royal wedding. Children participate in ceremony. May 2031, extensive positive media coverage of wedding. Mulroney praised for her role. June 7th, alleged threatening phone call from Meghan. June 22nd, cease and desist letter received. June 28th, Mulroney's attorney objects to NDA terms. July 3rd, Mulroney signs NDA under protest. June 2020, Mulroney's public controversy with Sasha Exeter. Meghan cuts contact. 2020-2024, Mulroney remains silent despite professional damage. May 2025, Mulroney releases statement alleging threats and intimidation. This timeline shows a relationship that went from intimate friendship to legal antagonism within 7 weeks of the wedding, suggesting either a serious betrayal by Mulroney that justified extreme protective measures, or a calculated silencing operation by Meghan once Mulroney's usefulness ended. The fact that Mulroney maintained silence for 5 years after Meghan abandoned her during public crisis suggests the former explanation is unlikely. Friends betrayed do not protect their betrayers for half a decade. The scenario analysis must consider multiple interpretations. Scenario 1. Mulroney's allegations are substantially accurate, documenting a pattern of behavior where Meghan uses legal threats to control associates and protect image. Probability high given corroborating documentation, consistency with other reports, and Mulroney's credibility. Scenario 2. Mulroney is fabricating or exaggerating these claims, motivated by revenge for Meghan's abandonment in 2020. Probability low given the legal risk of defamation, the documentary evidence, and the professional costs to Mulroney of being seen as untrustworthy. Scenario 3. Both parties behave badly, with Meghan reasonably seeking privacy protection but executing it in an overly aggressive manner, while Mulroney is now selectively presenting facts to portray herself as a victim. Probability moderate, as this scenario accommodates complexity and acknowledges that high-stress situations can bring out poor behavior in everyone involved. Scenario 4. Meghan's legal team, rather than Meghan personally, drove the aggressive NDA approach without her full knowledge of the tactics being deployed in her name. Probability low to moderate, as celebrities typically approve major legal strategies, but attorneys sometimes exceed instructions. The urgency of this revelation lies in its timing and its implications. This is not historical trivia. This is current evidence bearing directly on Meghan's character, judgment, and methods at precisely the moment when her marriage appears to be in crisis and her professional endeavors are under scrutiny. If she treats friends and trusted associates this way, how does she treat her husband? If she uses legal threats to silence wedding planners, what other voices has she suppressed? If she cannot tolerate any narrative she does not control, how can any relationship with her be conducted on terms of equality and mutual respect? The comparison to other royal figures is instructive. Princess Diana, Princess Margaret, Sarah Ferguson all faced intense scrutiny and all had people close to them who spoke publicly. None systematically deployed legal threats to silence every potential voice. They understood that living a public life means accepting that others will tell their stories too. Meghan's alleged approach, total control through legal intimidation, is less consistent with royal tradition and more consistent with corporate crisis management or authoritarian information control. For those who have defended Meghan against press intrusion and unfair treatment, this allegation presents a challenging test. Can you simultaneously condemn tabloid harassment and also question whether Meghan's responses to anyone who might speak about her cross lines of reasonableness? Can you hold space for both the truth that she has faced racist and sexist coverage and the truth that her alleged methods of controlling information may themselves be problematic? Intellectual honesty requires grappling with complexity rather than defaulting to absolute support or absolute condemnation. The public interest in this story is clear. Meghan and Harry have monetized their narrative extensively, earning millions from interviews, documentaries, and Harry's memoir by presenting their version of events. When someone who was there, who witnessed firsthand what they describe, comes forward with contradictory evidence, the public has a right to hear it and evaluate it. The marketplace of ideas functions only when multiple voices can speak, not when some voices are silenced through legal threats and financial intimidation. As we close tonight, I want to hear your assessment. Do you find Jessica Mulroney's allegations credible, or do you believe this is opportunistic score settling? Vote in the poll, comment respectfully below, and tomorrow we will examine whether other former Meghan associates are now emboldened to break their silence. The walls of enforced silence may be crumbling, the legal threats may be losing their power, and the true story of who Meghan Markle is behind the carefully managed image may finally be emerging into public view. Good night.